Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel at youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ. We are now just 1 week away until the 2017 WWE Hall of Fame, which kicks off, 5 consecutive nights of big WWE shows that are part of WrestleMania weekend. Got your questions from twitter.com/AaronRift regarding WrestleMania and other topics. So let's get started with the first one, which comes from I Say Whatever 666, one of my regular contributors. So Shawn Michaels turned down WrestleMania match with AJ Styles. He admits Styles did not have an opponent. How do you react to this? I found that to be most interesting. I mean, I'm not shocked about Shawn Michaels turning down a match with AJ Styles. I figured that it was unlikely Shawn would ever get back in the ring again. Fans were speculating around the Royal Rumble that maybe Shawn would come out of retirement to face AJ Styles at the Alamo Dome, but I never really considered it to be a major possibility. I think if Shawn was going to return, he would have done so several years ago when WWE did that storyline with Daniel Bryan and Shawn Michaels. We all know that Daniel Bryan had trained with Shawn Michaels, and that would have made sense at the time. That never happened. There was no match between those two. There was no real conclusion to that storyline that started at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So I really did not expect Shawn to come out of retirement for either the Rumble or WrestleMania, and I think the door is closed. I think Shawn is done. He is happy being retired, and he wants to honor that retirement stipulation. So I have a lot of respect for the guy. But yeah, like you said, the thing that's really interesting about what he said in the interview with Sam Roberts is that AJ Styles apparently did not have an opponent for WrestleMania, and that's why WWE pitched Shawn Michaels the idea of Shawn stepping in and being AJ's opponent for WrestleMania. That really says a lot, because you would think with AJ Styles being the guy that is carrying the Smackdown brand essentially since the roster split, that WWE would have an opponent for AJ Styles. And we all know that Shane McMahon was originally supposed to face Brock Lesnar. It's really weird because there's so many possible matches WWE could have put AJ Styles in. They could have done AJ versus Samoa Joe, AJ Styles versus Nakamura, AJ Styles versus Finn Balor, AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins in an interpromotional match. I mean, so many possibilities. So for WWE to not have a match with AJ Styles, I am a little bit surprised, but at the same time, I'm not that surprised. I mean, yes, WWE puts AJ Styles in a prominent position. Everyone knows AJ Styles is the real deal, one of the best wrestlers in the world, and arguably the best wrestler in WWE. But let's face it, WWE doesn't see AJ as their most marketable star. Look at the Royal Rumble poster. He was way in the back. Look at the WrestleMania poster. He was way in the back again. AJ Styles, I think from WWE's perspective, is a good little hand. I hate to use Triple H's words from his promo with Daniel Bryan, but I really feel that's how WWE sees AJ Styles. They see him as the B-plus player, the good little hand who can work great matches and be reliable, but he's not the guy they're going to build the company around. And I think people need to realize that. Just like even guys like Bret Hart. Bret Hart was the WWE champion several times, but Vince was always looking for the replacement Hulk Hogan. And when Lex Luger came in, Bret took a back seat. When Diesel came in, Bret again took a back seat, and AJ Styles will be there. He will be in major matches, but when WrestleMania comes along and the part-timers are back, AJ's going to take a back seat. Now, with all that being said, I think AJ will make the most out of the match with Shane McMahon, and like I've said in the other videos, I think AJ and Shane will be a very entertaining match. I do not expect it to suck, and I do not think that WWE will sabotage it or anything like that. I think that match is going to be given every opportunity to succeed, but probably more because of the fact that Shane's in it than it being an AJ Styles match at WrestleMania. I mean, that's really silly to say, but that is how it is. It is what it is, and I think, you know, people are going to be upset about it, but at the end of the day, I think AJ will be all right. Next question here from Mr. Yuck. Does having Jim Cornette and Eric Bischoff as inductors in the Hall of Fame lead to possible inductions for themselves in the future? You would think so. I've also gotten some people asking me about the possibility of Jim Cornette and Eric Bischoff working with WWE again beyond just being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I think that this will definitely open the door. I think that this will give Bischoff and Cornette the opportunity to get on good terms with WWE again. Who knows? I mean, never say never. I think that WWE, if there's business there, if there's potential to do business with these guys and money to be made, that WWE will bury the hatchet with these guys. And, you know, WWE has already been doing projects with Eric Bischoff over the past year. It is really cool to see Jim Cornette working something out with WWE, at least appearing at the Hall of Fame to induct the Rock and Roll Express. And hopefully this is the beginning of the relationship between WWE and Jim Cornette mending, and maybe we will see Jim Cornette on WWE television again in some capacity. As far as the Hall of Fame inductions go, I definitely think that both of them will end up in the Hall of Fame at some point. I mean, Cornette, in my opinion, one of the greatest managers of all time, and Eric Bischoff, without Bischoff, would there have even been an Attitude Era? That is very debatable. I would say both of them absolutely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, and I think it will happen sooner than later. Got this one here from Andrew. What main event matches would you make for next year's WrestleMania in New Orleans in 2018? The obvious one for me is Undertaker versus John Cena, if Undertaker's doing one more match. If he's not going to be doing another match, if this year is Undertaker's final match, then John Cena versus Roman Reigns. That's the other big dream match for WrestleMania. I know some fans out there will be shaking their heads at that one, but as far as a marketable match goes, I mean, that would be the match to do. Also, I'd love to see Samoa Joe versus AJ Styles, or AJ Styles versus Kurt Angle. I'd love to see Kurt Angle in a huge WrestleMania match, whether it's against Joe or AJ. Maybe AJ versus Nakamura at next year's WrestleMania, and Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe. Those are two matches I would love to see at next year's WrestleMania. And on a similar topic, got this one here from Sean T. Flick, another regular contributor. If AJ goes to Raw and Roman goes to SmackDown, what do you think of Lesnar versus Styles and Cena versus Reigns at Mania next year? Well, I just mentioned John Cena versus Roman Reigns. Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles. That one is interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. I think that I would prefer that over Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for next year's WrestleMania, but I feel that AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar is a little bit of a Styles clash. I'm not sure how I would feel about that match. I mean, my guess is AJ would be like David and Brock Lesnar would be Goliath, and that would be the story. AJ trying to knock the big giant down. I guess it could work, but like I said in the previous question, I'd rather see AJ against Kurt Angle or AJ versus Nakamura. I would prefer one of those two matches over AJ versus Brock Lesnar. You know, I think Brock is more fitted to facing guys like himself. You know, Lesnar versus Goldberg, even though Goldberg is very limited in what he can do, that is the type of opponent that Brock Lesnar should have. Someone who is his equal in terms of the physical power, you know, the irresistible force meeting the immovable object, you know, the two bulls locking horns, you know, those are the kind of matches I want to see from Brock Lesnar. Maybe Braun Strowman, if Strowman has a great year, you know, he's built up some momentum this past year. Time will tell if he can keep that momentum going despite losing to Reigns, but if he continues to perform well in the ring and WWE continues to push him, Lesnar and Strowman next year might be a really interesting match for WrestleMania. Moving on here, got this question from Chris. With Sami Zayn defending Mick Foley, do you see him being traded to SmackDown for Styles? That's a possibility. I think somebody asked me on one of the recent videos about a trade being made with AJ going to Raw, with Shane and Daniel Bryan being fed up with AJ Styles and Stephanie and Triple H being fed up with Sami Zayn. I could definitely see that as a possibility before the draft. You know, the draft might not be for another 3 months or so, sometime in June. I could see a storyline like that happening where AJ goes to Raw in exchange for somebody like Sami Zayn. I would definitely not rule that out, and might not be a bad decision. Gives AJ some fresh opponents, gives Sami Zayn some fresh opponents on SmackDown, gives Zayn in particular a new lease on life on SmackDown. Feels like he is stuck in a certain position on Raw. Maybe he would do better on SmackDown. So I like the idea a lot. And I think there's a relatively decent chance of it happening. This one comes from Wreck-It Beckett. What did WWE just do for Breeze, or should I say Breeze and Fandango? I just hope for them that they just got crushed. I had some hope for them, then they just got crushed. I've seen a lot of comments about what happened on SmackDown this week with Tyler Breeze dressed up like Nikki Bella and getting beat up by Nikki. A lot of people saying he got buried, and how could WWE do this to Tyler Breeze? I mean, I'm not really surprised, and to be honest, it really did not bother me that much. I never expected Tyler Breeze to be a major star in WWE. Even in NXT, he was somewhat of a mid-carder in NXT. It wasn't like he was NXT's top star that the brand was built around. Tyler Breeze came in as a mid-carder in WWE, and now, I mean, him and Fandango are basically enhancement talent, and not everyone can be a main eventer. Not everyone can even be a mid-carder. You have your top guys, you have your middle guys, and you have your lower guys, and quite frankly, I think Tyler Breeze and Fandango are essentially as far as they're going to go, and they're probably in the right spot right now as guys putting over other talent and doing the comedy and that sort of thing. You know, being the opening match comedy heels. I really don't think that they are as talented as guys like Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe and some of the other NXT talent. That's just how I feel personally. So I'm not really that upset. The guys are getting TV time. They're getting paid good money, and they have a spot on the roster, and they have a purpose. They are serving some sort of purpose. So to me, that's better than not getting any TV time at all. You know, for somebody like Jack Swagger, who's just not on TV, and you know, he's not even getting to be a personality on television. He has nothing to do. You know, it's worse off for somebody like that. And of course, Swagger asked for his release because he had nothing to do. And I think maybe even putting over other people and at least getting a role on television is better than doing nothing at all. This one comes from Victor Cortez. Based on the fact that she got no effing reaction as a heel, can we assume that Dana Brooke's face turn is a guaranteed flop? I think that under better circumstances, it might have worked well. It felt like several months ago, maybe if WWE told the story correctly and played their cards right with that storyline, then maybe Dana Brooke would have had a shot at getting over as a babyface. But now it's too little too late, and she really hasn't shown much. And I think that is part of the reason why WWE gave up on her. I think at one point the plan was to, in fact, turn her face and have her feud with Charlotte. But, you know, several months ago, that would have been the time, and she just wasn't really delivering in the ring like WWE was hoping, and they pretty much gave up on it. And now, you know, it's just time filler, really. And it's just something for Charlotte to do leading up to WrestleMania. And I do not sense that there are any long-term plans for Dana Brooke. And, you know, unfortunately for her, she might be better off going back to NXT for a while and see if she can get better in the ring, because, you know, she's botched a lot of things on television and she hasn't handled the criticism well. You know, going on Twitter and calling out fans that are posting GIFs of her botching moves, that's not going to do her any favors. You need to be thick-skinned. You need to be able to laugh at it and not take it so seriously. So for her to get offended and worked up over people making fun of her botches, that's not going to do her any favors moving forward. This one comes from LK Pardo 18. I think this is a first-time asker, I'm not sure. After Bray Wyatt's statement about Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, was it really for him and Randy got the ability to steal the show? What he's talking about is the interview Bray Wyatt did where he was asked about Goldberg and Brock Lesnar main eventing WrestleMania, and Wyatt said that if Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, if he was them, he would not want to follow Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. And I think that with Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, there will be the smoke and mirrors. I think that Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, as far as potentially stealing the show, I hope they're given the opportunity because it's for the WWE title. And Randy Orton won the Royal Rumble. You had Bray Wyatt winning Elimination Chamber. A lot of stock has been put into this story. So I'm really hoping that they have the opportunity to steal the show. And I think if given the opportunity, they will steal the show at WrestleMania and have one of the best matches of the night. I think it'll be a very good match, and it could potentially be a great match if they're given the opportunity. Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, it's not going to steal the show. It is what it is. It's the two big stars going at it, and it will probably be a very short match, and it's more about the star power than the quality of the wrestling. So for them going on last, having to follow everything, I mean, they're really a different type of attraction. People aren't watching that match to see a 20-minute back and forth match with guys kicking out of all the finishers and stuff. It's basically just the two personalities hitting the big power moves for however long Goldberg can work a match. So, I'm not really expecting Goldberg and Lesnar to have this mindset that they have to follow Wyatt and Orton and everybody else on WrestleMania. They're just going to go out there and do their thing and collect the big paycheck. I mean, that's the way it is for them. This one comes from Jamie Adams. Is Seth Rollins and Triple H have a match at WrestleMania? Do you see Triple H losing via the pedigree? That's interesting. I'm curious if Triple H will actually lay down from his own maneuver by somebody else. That would be really interesting to see. Will it happen? I'm not getting my hopes up on it. I think it would be a cool visual for Triple H to lose to the pedigree, but I'm hoping Seth Rollins will come up with something else. My gut feeling is Rollins will hit the pedigree on Triple H. I mean, it would be a nice finish because it would be Triple H losing, the ultimate humiliation for the guy to lose to his own finisher. Triple H losing to the pedigree would be very embarrassing for him and would really put Seth Rollins over. But at the same time, I think Rollins needs a new finisher, and I could see a scenario where Rollins hits the pedigree, Triple H kicks out, and then Rollins hits a new move and wins the match, and that's his new finisher moving forward. I could see that happening, but pedigree being the finish, I definitely like the idea, and I think it would be a cool way to have Rollins stick it to Triple H, beating him with his own move. This one comes from James. With SmackDown being better than ever now, do you think the post-WrestleMania SmackDown will be as hot as Raw's post-WrestleMania show this year? I think so for the most part. This is the first time that SmackDown is in the same city, in the same building as Raw the night after. And I think that there will still be a lot of fans that are coming from other areas of the country and other countries at this SmackDown. I do think it will be a hotter SmackDown crowd than usual. It won't just be the local fans. It'll be a lot of the hardcore fans that are traveling in for WrestleMania weekend. Not as many as Raw, because I sense that some people will probably go home after Raw and not stay. It's a very long period of time. Some people might be out there for an entire week, and some people are only going in for a few days. They might go to WrestleMania and Raw, or maybe NXT, WrestleMania and Raw, or maybe just the Hall of Fame, NXT and WrestleMania. But I do think it will be a hotter crowd than usual, and it will be more of a similar crowd to Raw with a lot of hardcore fans in attendance. So yeah, should be a really interesting SmackDown, just like Raw the night after WrestleMania. This one comes from Wrestling Tubes. Carmela is one of the lamest wrestlers on the Smackdown roster. Do you think she needs to be repackaged? I definitely feel she's not really catching on with the audience. It seems when she comes out, she still barely gets any kind of reaction. The stuff with James Ellsworth was somewhat entertaining. I mean, I found a few of the segments to be entertaining, but overall, I think James Ellsworth has just run its course as a character. I think that it's given Carmela something to do. It's helped Carmela more than it's helped James Ellsworth. It's given her something to do with her character, but the fact is, it's been several months now and fans still aren't really reacting to her. I'm not sure what you do with her at this point. I really feel James Ellsworth needs to go. I think it's run its course. It has served the purpose for a while, but to me it's just dumb now. I think it's time to move on, and I'm not sure what you do with Carmela because I think that this was her best shot of catching on as a character doing this storyline with James Ellsworth where she's using him, but people aren't really invested in it. People liked James Ellsworth as the goofy babyface character and not this heel, you know. It just doesn't really work, you know. It was like when you had Colin Delaney turn heel. It just didn't work. And I don't feel it's working with James Ellsworth. And because of that, Carmela's not really catching on with this new character she's been doing as of late. Basically just using this guy James Ellsworth to get clothes or get victories in matches or whatever. It just isn't catching on with the fans. This one comes from Matt Big. Do you think Goldust's heel run in 1997 could have been longer and better? I really enjoyed the artist formerly known as Goldust. I thought that was a great variation of the Goldust character, and it fit in very well with the Attitude Era. And I would say that it should have had a longer run. I think he only did that gimmick for about 4 months before he came out and threw the Goldust costume in the trash and set it on fire, and the fan was calling him the F word, the homophobic slur. I think that it was a very entertaining character. The stuff that Goldust was doing with Luna when they came out there in the ridiculous costumes and just really pushing the envelope, I thought it was great. I thought it was the most interesting part of Goldust's career, quite frankly. Goldust was a very entertaining character in '96, and then when he turned babyface, it kind of got stale a little bit, but then the artist just completely turned everything upside down, and it was very creative. I thought it was a great angle, a great gimmick, and yeah, I'm sad that it did not go on for a longer period of time and doesn't really get enough recognition for its creativity. That'll wrap it up for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned to NoDQ for the very latest regarding Wrestlemania. It's going to be a very busy week coming up. A lot of stuff to cover. A lot of videos coming up. The NXT predictions, WrestleMania predictions. Going to have the recap videos over the weekend, and then Raw and SmackDown. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com. Going to be a very busy week, and I will see you guys next time.